And we're off. So I'd like to welcome, my name's Olivia, I'd like to welcome everybody to this Hour of Code video chat with Alex Asseily from Jawbone. And if the schools would like to say hello, we have Herne School in Kent. Would you like to say hi?
Hey guys!
And we have MCE Academy in York.
Hi!
Hello.
Welcome everyone. Alex, if you can go ahead and give us, in a few words, a bit of an introduction, please.
An introduction. Well, I'll give you a quick introduction if I can. I grew up in Beirut in Lebanon, and then I grew up in London. And then when I was 18, I left and I went to California. And I studied in California, and I studied a mixture of art and design and engineering. And when I left university, I had an idea to start a company making wearable products, basically. And we made a technology a long time ago, which we then turned into a product, which is called Jawbone. And then we came out with other products. And that company is still running in California. We make wristbands as well that track your movement and your sleep. And then I moved back to London in 2010 because I'd been away from friends and family for too long. And I'm very happy to be back. And now that I'm in London, I set up a new company which is called State. And State is an opinion network. We're trying to connect people around the world through what they think, not just who they know. And that's it.
Thanks very much. So without further ado, let's have a question from Herne School.
At what age did you realise computing was your career?
I don't think I ever thought that computing was my career. I was just more excited about solving a problem. And then I realized that it was through computing and through engineering that I could solve it. And then I got excited about solving it.
Thank you very much. Let's have a question from MCE Academy.
What do you think makes Jawbone so successful?
Big question. I think because we care about making high-quality products, we care about people having really good experiences with their products, and that is not just, it's not just about the engineering. The engineering is a very important part. The product has to work, and so often it works well because there are lots of little technologies that come together and work very harmoniously together. But it's also about other things. It's also about how it looks. When people buy products, they walk into a shop typically, and they see the product on a shelf, and if the product looks nice on the shelf because it's packaged well, then it's attractive and it draws people in. And then of course you start taking the packaging off, which, as many of you know, that can be a painful experience or it can be a delightful experience. So as much as possible, we try to make it a delightful experience. And then of course when you open up the package, you've got this product sitting there, and we invested a lot of time and creativity trying to make it a beautiful product with nice materials and colors and textures.
Thank you, Alex. Let's have another question from Herne School.
Has this always been your wanted career?
I think so. It's sometimes there are folks who are lucky enough to know from when they're very young, like you guys, exactly what they want to do, and that's perfectly fine, and you should do that. If there's something you desperately want to do, you should go and do it, whatever it is. In my case, I was motivated by solving problems, like I said earlier, and I think now when I look back on it, I'm really happy that that's how I chose to do things, because it meant that when I woke up every morning, I knew why I was doing things. I wasn't just doing them because it was a job. I wasn't just doing them because my parents told me to, or because my friends thought it was cool. I was doing it because I believed in it in my heart. I believed in what I was doing, and it excited me.
Thank you very much. Let's go straight to another question from MC.
Do you allow apprenticeships for young people?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Do you allow apprenticeships for young people?
We allow apprenticeships for young people. Yeah, I mean, so Jawbone does, because Jawbone is a more established company. Unfortunately, it's in America, which makes it a little bit harder to offer apprenticeships. But it's something that we've definitely done. Certainly in the summers at State, we've offered apprenticeships or internships, depending on what people are interested in. We have potentially a couple of different things that we can throw you into that you might enjoy.
Thanks very much. And another question from Herne School, please.
What is the most vital part of making a website?
The most vital part? That's a great question. And it's a difficult one to answer because it depends on the website. In general, with building any kind of product, my feeling is that you really want to understand who your customer is. In other words, who is your user, and what is it your user has come to your website to do? Have they come there to buy something? If they've come there to buy something, then the most vital part of your website needs to be to present the product to them, educate them about the product, and then get them very quickly through, through to buying it and paying for it, and then entering their address so they can get it delivered. If your website is about news, then your challenge, the most vital part when it's news, is about presenting the news. It's about, can you lay out the text and the images in such a way that it's appealing and informative? If your site is about is a social platform, let's say like Facebook or Twitter or State, like the one I'm doing right now, then it's neither of those two things. It's more around, how do you make it very, very easy for people to navigate through and engage on a regular basis and add their comments and like things and retweet things. So it really depends on what it is, what it is the site is trying to do. So perhaps another way of looking at this is the most vital way, the most vital piece of any website is the part that is solving the problem that your website is trying to solve. The most important thing is always the part that's solving the problem.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks very much. Let's have another question from MCE Academy.
How did it feel to win the Design of the Decade award, and how did you do it?
I'm not even sure which one that was, we never set out to try and win awards. We've definitely won a few. There are some we feel we deserved. There are some we feel that we maybe didn't deserve or that we didn't necessarily need to receive. Going back to what I said earlier, I think it's really about setting out every day when you want to build a company or when you want to build a product to do the best possible job you can. The world is a competitive place, and it's so easy to discover products today. So if you're trying to get out there and create something, make sure it's the best possible thing that you can imagine, because then A, it'll excite you to do it, and B, usually if you can succeed in producing something that impresses you in your heart, then you'll find that other people recognize that, and they'll also appreciate the quality and the attention you've paid to it. And I think in the case of Jawbone, when we won awards like that, it was because it was as a result of teams coming together, not just the founders, but the teams coming together and really putting their heart and sweat and tears into every little detail so that the product was really excellent and the experience of using the product was delightful.
Let's have another question from MCE Academy. Or did we just have MCE? Sorry, am I getting...
Oh, we can take one more, please.
Okay.
How long did it take for you to think of the Jawbone idea?
Good question. I thought of the Jawbone idea when I was still at university, and I was desperately trying to create a project for my last term at university, and I would say it took me 2 months, but then it took me a year to figure out how to turn that into a business. And that doesn't mean it has to take a year for everyone. In some cases, people are lucky and it takes them much less time. Sometimes it takes longer. But in my case, about 2 months.
Thanks, Alex. Let's go back to Hearn. Sorry, I skipped you.
How old was you when you was inspired to start coding?
Good question. I found coding hard when I first started doing it because I'd never really thought about it, and I think I started doing it when I was maybe I don't know, 12 maybe. I did a little bit, and then there weren't many computers in those days, so it wasn't that easy to practice. And then I did it again when I was 18. So you guys are way ahead of where I was, and you should be able to do way more than I ever did, because you've got the tools and you've got people around you who know how these things work, and you've got resources at disposal to show you how to make the most of your tools.
Thanks very much. Let's take another question from MC Academy.
What made you want to create Jawbone?
A good question. Jawbone, what made me want to create Jawbone was largely to do with thinking about how people would use products like headsets and phones in the future. And what I realized was that you could, that when things got 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, that headsets and phones would get much smaller, and when they got much smaller, you could start to hook them onto the body, like a Bluetooth headset can now fit in your ear, and it's very light, and it can last for 6 hours on a single charge. And as you can see with things like the Apple Watch and things like the Jawbone Up bracelets, we can now put computers in a very, very small space. So when I started Jawbone, it was really more around believing that the whole world of technology was going to miniaturize and become more wearable, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Let's have another question from Hearn School, please.
The question is, how did you come up with the idea of your website?
So for State, it was a very simple thing, and that is right now, at any time that you think about something like the traffic's not great, or this film is awesome, or wouldn't it be great to go to the South Pole, at any given time you have a thought like that, the chances are there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world who are having exactly the same thought. And that made me realize that there's an opportunity to create a system or a site which would allow people to say what they think and then instantly connect them with all the other people out there who think the same way. And so that's what inspired me to go out and start State, was connecting people through what they think.
Thanks very much, Alex. I think we have time for one question from each school, if we're quick. So, MC Academy, would you please ask your last question?
What made you return to London in 2010?
I came back because I had lived in California for a long time, and I liked it a lot out there, but it was very far from home. I grew up in London, as I mentioned earlier, and I wanted to come back. And I also felt that the UK and London was a great place to start another company like State, which is at the intersection of technology, the semantic web, and media. And you know, London and British universities, and the UK and Europe as a whole are really strong in those areas. And I was excited to kind of move back home, reconnect with friends and family who all live here, and start something around you know, this intersection of media and technology.
Thanks very much, Alex. Okay, and we'll have the last question from Herne School, please.
How did you feel when you created Jawbone?
I felt excited and terrified. You know, starting anything worth doing is generally pretty hard to do, which is why I mentioned earlier that it's really important that you pick something that you're passionate about, something you love doing, because if you want to wake up every day and you're going to work with people to do it, and you're going to collaborate with your friends and your colleagues, and you're going to go out into the world and tell people about it, you really want to be sure that you love it and that you're passionate about it, and you want to do it every day. So you know, I think that's I would say that's the biggest thing that I thought about when I set up Jawbone, was, you know, how to how you know, what was it that was motivating me every day? Why was I working so hard? Why was it that I was willing to live through some you know, some challenging moments? Well, it's because I loved what I was doing, and that made it all better.
Thanks very much. And that comes to the end of our chat. So I just want to say a big thank you to Alex Asseily for joining us. And if you schools you want to unmute, you can say a thank you and a goodbye. Thanks to and thanks to MC Academy in York.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.